The last two properties we're going to cover are power of a product and power of a quotient. So starting with power of a product, we have something that looks like this. AB to the m power would actually be a to the m power times b to the m power. So we can essentially distribute this to both a and b. Now, before we move on, I want to point out something really, really important that we've done before, and it was something that looks like this. When we did this in chapter 2, I caught some of you guys saying, oh, well, I can take that squared and I can distribute it to the x, and I can distribute it to the 2, and I can get x squared plus 4. But then we had the conversation that that's actually wrong and it doesn't work, because what you actually have to do is you have to write x plus 2 times x plus 2, and you have to multiply it out. So we would take x times x, which is x squared. We would take x times 2, which is 2x. We would take 2 times x, which is 2x. And we would take 2 times 2, which is 4. Then we would combine like terms, which we're going to take the 2x and the 2x, and we would get x squared plus 4x plus 4. So this actually equals this and not this. So you cannot distribute the squared to the x and the 2. So why am I now telling you that it's okay to distribute this power to both the a and the b? Can you figure out anything or think of anything? And the reason is because this has a plus sign. This does not. Okay, this is just pure multiplication. Anything with a plus or minus, you cannot distribute a power over. Anything with just pure out multiplication or division, you can. Because if I were to say, let's apply this one, 3x squared, I could do 3x times 3x and write it twice, just like I did here. And 3x times 3x is 9x squared. That would work the same way as if I were to distribute this and do 3 squared times x squared. That would still get me 9x squared. So if it's just pure multiplication, you are allowed to distribute the exponent. If I add in an addition or subtraction here, you cannot. If you're not sure, a good way to do it, no matter what, is just write it twice. Here you wrote it twice and multiplied it. Here we wrote it twice and multiplied it. Either way, that'll get you the answer if you're not sure about which rule. Anyways, that's power of a product. And then we also have power of a quotient. So this time a divided by b raised to the m power. You could do a to the m power divided by b to the m power. So once again, you are allowed to distribute over division. Now let's give all of that a try. So letter A, negative 1.5 y squared. This is our product to a power. So we're going to take the squared and we're going to distribute it both to the negative 1.5 and to the y. I'm going to consider this negative as part of the 1.5. So I'm going to have negative 1.5 squared times y squared. If you wanted, you could kind of do the negative separately, but I'm not going to. And then I'm going to take negative 1.5 and I'm going to square it, which is going to give me 2.25 y squared, and that's our final answer. Again, the other way to do that would have just been to write negative 1.5y times negative 1.5y, and then you would take the negative 1.5 times the negative 1.5, you would get 2.25, and then the y times the y, you would get the y squared. Letter D, a divided by negative 10 to the third power. This one, we're going to take our third power, we're going to distribute it to the a, we're going to distribute it to the negative 10. So I'm going to have a to the third power over negative 10 to the third power. And when we're dealing with negatives, if the negative is inside parentheses, even when you apply that exponent, you should leave your negative inside parentheses. So here, I'm going to leave a to the third, and then we're going to have negative 10 times negative 10 times negative 10, which is going to give me negative 1,000. And I would probably just leave your answer like that. Okay, letter B, 3D divided by 2 all to the fourth power. So a couple things going on here. First of all, we are going to take this power, we're going to distribute it. But this time, do you notice in the numerator you have two separate terms? Well, not terms, but two separate things going on. So you've got the 3 and the D. So we're going to take the 4 and give it to the 3. We're going to take the 4 and give it to the D. And we're going to take the 4 and give it to the 2. So we're going to have 3 to the fourth times D to the fourth divided by 2 to the fourth. Then I'm going to figure out 3 to the fourth, which is 81. So 81 D to the fourth. Then I'm going to figure out 2 to the fourth, which is 16. And then if 81 and 16 could simplify, I would do that, but they don't. So there's our answer. Letter E, 2x to the negative 5 divided by, 2x divided by 3 raised to the negative 5 power. Now, I'm going to show you one way of doing this, and then we're going to go back and do it another way. So the first way is we're just going to take the negative 5 and distribute. So 2 to the negative 5, x to the negative 5 over 3 to the negative 5. Then I'm going to look at all that and go, well, wait a minute, they're all negative exponents. So if they're all negative exponents, then this guy needs to go down, this guy needs to go down, and this guy needs to go up. So we're going to have 3 to the 5th power in the numerator, and then we're going to have 2 to the 5th power times x to the 5th power in the denominator. Then we're going to go from there. So 3 to the 5th power is 243. Over 2 to the 5th power is 32. X to the 5th. And again, if I could simplify 243 and 32, I would, but I cannot. So that's your final answer. Now, some kids look at this right out of the start and go, well, wait a minute. If that's a negative exponent, and I know I'm going to have to take a reciprocal, and the whole thing is being raised to the negative, then we could have just started by going 3 over 2x and then changing our exponent to a positive 5. So if the whole thing is negative to a negative exponent, just flip it to start with, which brings you essentially kind of to this step over here. So now we could distribute and say 3 to the positive 5, 2 to the positive 5, x to the positive 5, which would then take us to that answer. Letter C, negative 4 divided by n over 5. Now, usually when I'm dealing with a negative, if it's out front, I kind of like to assign it to one of these variables, and I typically stick it up here in the numerator just so I can keep track of it. So I would look at this more of negative 4 over n to the 5th. That way I kind of know who he's going to. Then I would say, okay, distribute my 5. So this is going to be negative 4 to the 5th, keeping parentheses because of my negative, and then n to the 5th. Then I would use my calculator and I would do negative 4 to the 5th, which is going to be negative 1024 over n to the 5th, and there would be our final answer.